Hello folks. Tonight we're going to talk about the touch control hydraulics on a Super A Farmall. This is pretty much the same box that's used on the Super A's, the 140s, 130s, Super C's, 230s, all the tractors of those models that had the touch control hydraulics for lifting the cultivators. We're going to tear this box down and go through it and rebuild it, put new seals in it all the way. Pretty much just rebuilding this one because it was leaking. That was the only issues it had. It was still working fine, but the oil was pouring out of it as fast as you could pour it in it, which is a common problem with these boxes. They don't normally give a lot of trouble. They give years and years of trouble-free service. But these things seem to be something next to rocket science for some folks. Seem to make more out of them than they really are, because there ain't that much to them other than just tearing them down and cleaning everything up and putting new seals and O-rings in them and making sure, you know, all the little poppets and things of that nature is in the right place. We're going to start tearing this one down. First thing you want to do is take your rock shaft off. Remove this 7/8 head bolt. Take your impact, take an impact wrench and zip them out. Get all that removed. Another thing you want to do when you're doing something like this, especially if you're not familiar with it, is lay everything out in the order that you take it apart so that you can remember how to get it back together. And this thing split in two on one side and the other side of it. And I don't know what the logic behind that was. Flip this back over. Keep these saddles together because they're machined to match one another. Alright. Once you get this up out of the way, you're going to want to take your bolts up under here, remove these little things here that are around the pins that hold the push rods in place. Get them loose. And that gives you enough room you can get it off the little pins. And I may speed some of this video up just so you don't have to watch this tedious process of getting all this stuff apart. Alright, it's basically the same thing for the other side. Just loosen these screws. That'll give you enough room. They'll spread out enough to come off of these little pins right here. And I've pressure washed this box and got all the dirt off of it, and I'm going to have to, once I get it took apart, I'm going to clean it again. And that's a major aspect of these things, is keeping them clean when you're working on them. Clean everything up good. And this one probably ain't never been apart. Still looks to have all the original bolts in it. If I had to guess, I'd say that this box might have never been taken apart. Straighten out these cotter pins. Pull one side, straighten the other side. Get your cotter pins out. Lay everything up here. Keep up with it. Alright, got that cotter pin out. Cotter pin out on the other side. Sometimes you take a little drift punch. Drive them out. Alright. That's got the rock shaft out of the way. Just gonna lay it on the other side. Alright, here's the two rams that operate push rods, rams, whatever you want to refer to them as. That operates the rock shaft. Alright, now we got this box stripped down. Now that we got the rock shaft off, I got a special fixture I made out of a piece of plate steel and pipe that I can screw on where the lines hook to the hydraulic box. It just takes 3/8 bolts. I'll go ahead and put it on. And then I can mount it on my table where I can rotate it around to get to everything. Now this ain't necessary, but it makes it a lot easier if you're going to be doing more than one of them. Remember now I had one of my holes off when I made it, and just use it with the 2 bolts. But the 2 3/8 bolts won't hold it. Ain't nothing gonna hold it. So I just snug these bolts up. Just slide it up in my piece of pipe I got in my workbench. Drop a bolt in it. Keep it from rotating. See, now we got this thing where it's down where you can get to it at the right height to work, and then you can put something up under the bottom of it to catch all the oil that's going to drain out of it. Alright. First thing we'll do is take the filter out of it. Try to start off with. That's the 7/16. Pull the 4 filter bolts out. And notice how these bolts have got little dots on the head of them. They're referred to as dot head bolts. And that's what, those are all factory boats. Those were International Harvester specific boats that had the little dots on the head. And all the boats in this thing are dot head boats. Over the years, stuff's been taken apart multiple times. A lot of times the original boats got lost or replaced or something other like that. Alright, here's this filter, and these filters will stop up sometimes. This one's not stopped up too bad. It's got like a piece of screen wire, and that's serviceable. You take it out and you can wash it. Carburetor cleaner, mineral spirits, something of that nature. Alright, we're going to go ahead and remove the bottom plate. Take some 9/16. No, excuse me, it's a half inch. We'll take the impact wrench. Take the impact wrench and zip all those bolts out. Tap it and break the seal. Alright. There's really nothing to see in this end of it much. That's just you see up in there in the bottom where the little pistons and things is. Here's where there's something to see. Is in this end cap here. This is where all the little poppets and check valves and things are. I'm going to zip all these bolts out. It's a 5/8 what it takes to close. Tap it with the hammer. Break the seal. Sometimes these things can be stuck pretty good. Just take something and drive up under it. Try to break the gasket loose. And I don't know. And this one's stuck. Stuck pretty hard. Get it pried loose. Let's see, we need to get us a heavy pry bar. Make sure we got all the bolts out of it. And they use some kind of Permatex or something on these gaskets at the factory. I've run into this before. There's some of them that are a booger to get off. If you ever get it broke loose to start with, though, it ain't bad. Let's see what we got. And the main thing is you don't want to get too violent with it. Distort this cut housing or bust it or break it. You want to try to kind of be easy with it. If you can get something up under it. Get something under it. Let's get it started. Got an old beat up screwdriver here. Well, I believe that's about as hard as I've ever seen one stuck. Here's another screwdriver sharpened on the end. Ain't any good for turning screws. Try to get up under it with it. Well, sir, it ain't budging. Check and make sure we got all the bolts out of it. Yeah, we got the bolts out of it. There we go. Finally got it broke loose. Bring it off. And there's nothing in this head except just, and it's just a solid piece of metal. All the little poppets and valves is in here. We got oil in the pistons. We're going to drain that out. And I'm going to bring the camera in for a closer angle so you can see what's going on with these little valves. Now we're going to take all the valves and poppets out. And we've already got part of them out. There's two little poppets, little plastic poppets here. Go right in here. You want to take those out. Make sure you lay them out where you remember where everything goes. We're laying it out right here on the table in order that it came out. That way it'll be easier to put back together. Alright, and you got two of these little pieces here that go down in here, and you got to make sure you get the whole thing out. Take this end out. See, there's an O-ring here. You're gonna have, what you're doing when you rebuilding one of these things, isn't really anything to it but taking it apart, replacing all these O-rings on all these little valves that go in and out, and make sure that all these little poppets are in good shape. And if you overheat these boxes, they're bad about melting. If the oil gets too hot in them from the filter being stopped up, it'll melt these little poppets and they won't work properly. And therefore the box will quit working. And this here's your pressure relief valve. You want to just lay the spring over to the side, put a little pressure on it, and it'll bring the little valve out with it. If not, you can just take your magnet, reach down in there and get it. And there it is. Alright. Then, when you get ready to remove these on each side, you want to be careful not to damage the inside bore of them. So what I do is reach in with these needle nose pliers and expand them out and try to get it to start turning. And sometimes these things are aggravating to get out. There we go. Just keep, if you can get a hold of it with a rag, just keep twisting it. And you want to lay these out, or they go back in the same hole that they come out of. Keep everything in order on your workbench, and that way you won't be guessing. You want to keep a good flashlight handy or some type of work light where you can look down in the holes and make sure that you've got everything out of it. And I feel sure they make some pliers for use doing this kind of stuff, but I had never stumbled across any of them and wouldn't know what to ask for if I wanted some. See if we can get got a little bit stronger magnet. Go down in there and remove that other piece. So what we got here? See if we can remove this valve over here. And the O-rings is what's holding them in. Keep working with it. I need a smaller magnet. Go down there. Let's see if we can get this outside valve up. Alright folks, we got all the valves, pistons, everything out of this box. In the process of getting the box cleaned up now. One of the things I want to go over, I've come up with a way to remove these valves out of the housing. I got a regular bearing puller. It's expandable, hooks to a slide hammer. I figured out you can put it right up here in the end of it. Don't put it in the part. Don't put it in the part where the little poppet goes down in there. Just put it right here on the edge of it and expand it out, and then you can hook your slide hammer to it. Just a regular slide hammer. It screws up on the end of it. And this is a cheapo one I got from down at Harbor Freight. Probably didn't cost but like $30 or $20 or something. It expands out. It's the one like you use to pull pilot bearings and things like that with. Figured that out. That worked out pretty good. Some of them were in there pretty tight. And what you want to do is get each one of these things out and get them laid out in the order that they come out, and make sure everything goes back in. And you want to remove every single one of them little valves. There's a bunch of little pipe thread set screws or pipe thread plugs with an Allen headed screw head on them in the bottom of the housing, and there's some also in the side of the housing. You want to remove all of those little plugs so you can clean that housing. You want to clean every orifice in that housing. You want to clean every little passage. You get you a little brush like you use to clean crankshafts, like a little spiral brush, and run up in every one of them little holes and get them just as clean as you can, because you don't want to have any trash in there. And this box has apparently had some moisture in it, because it's a little bit of light rust on these little valves and things. What I do is just take some fine, like 400 or 500 grit sandpaper, and polish everything up, clean it up, and wash everything. I use mineral spirits in my parts washer. Just plain old mineral spirits. I get them down at Lowe's, Home Depot, or somewhere like that. They like $48, I think, for 5 gallons. And if you pre-clean everything before you put it in your parts washer, if you spray it off with some carburetor cleaner or wipe it with a rag or something and get as much of the dirt and grime off of it as you can, then I've figured out that makes your mineral spirits last a lot longer before they get saturated with dirt. Another thing is these valves here, these two of them, these are the control valves that move backward and forward, that directs the oil to make it go up and down. And these surfaces right here are a machined lap surface. There's no O-rings or any seals on it. And you don't want to take sandpaper to those surfaces, because if you remove any of the metal from around this surface, then your valve will leak. The pressure will leak by these surfaces, just like a spool valve or something that's on a front end loader. Those surfaces are machined and lapped for a perfect fit, and if you disturb those with sandpaper, then you may have trouble with it leaking by the passages. But this end up here, where there's an O-ring to seal it, you can take a little sandpaper and polish that surface up if it's got some surface rust on it. And you see, you're depending on the O-ring for the seal. You don't want to remove any more metal than necessary. You just want to take 400 or 500 grit sandpaper and lightly polish this to remove any kind of rust that may be on it. But don't take any sandpaper to these surfaces here, because if you do, you may remove enough metal that it'll bypass. And got everything out. We're going to get everything cleaned up, get all the new O-rings put on it, and get everything ready to go back together. And got one of these seal kits. It's like this from International Harvester. They're about something like $110, I think, is the going price. And they fit pretty much all these boxes for the Super A's, 100s, 130s, 140s, 230s, Super C's. Pretty much the same kit for all of them. One other thing that I have not got yet is these boots. This is the big boot that goes around the piston on the front of the box, and then you got these smaller boots that go around the control valves. Alright, and these boots are made of leather. The last ones I bought from International altogether, these boots, all four of these boots is over $100 and something. And they still do have, I've got a set of leather ones. The later model ones come with rubber boots on those. And you can retrofit the earlier models with the rubber boots. And I got to decide what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to go to a leather shop that's local here and see if I can just have these boots reproduced at a lower cost, because they're rather expensive if you buy them from the dealer. And it isn't anything except a piece of leather just hemmed on each end, sewed together, and then you use a wire around the hem on each end, like a piece of tie wire, to tie them together. And most likely these are the original boots that came on the tractor, because they're still painted red, and they're not in all, the two big boots are not in all that bad a shape to be 60 something years old. Now the little boots is kind of dry rotted and starting to get some holes in them. But I've got to decide what I'm going to do about the boots. Alright, and right now I'm going to get everything cleaned up and get everything laid out, and then we'll get started reassembling.